Okay, so I may re-upload this to YouTube. I'm currently streaming, and I just wanted to talk about The Boys finale, okay? I don't have a script. I have some windows open so that I remember the topics that I want to talk about, okay? But I'm going to be giving my opinion. And first and foremost, Ashley. Like, my top three characters in this entire show. I had my testicles crossed, fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed, hoping that she survives through the finale. And I was so happy. I was happy. She lived. She lived. And I just need to tell someone. I'm telling the internet, okay, she lived and I'm happy. I don't care who hates her, whatever. The fact that she went from an assistant all the way up to president. Now, mind you, a puppet of a president, but still, president nonetheless. Very, very much loved her. I think I saw recently on YouTube someone did a deep dive into the story that her wardrobe told throughout the seasons. Now, mind you, I haven't actually watched the video, so I don't know how good it is, whatnot. But like, I intend on watching it eventually. It's kind of long, so I haven't checked it out yet. But yeah, overall, her ending, it was good. I was a bit upset she got impeached, but the joke was really funny, so like I loved it. But yeah, just a very enjoyable character. And I don't think enough people mentioned how funny it is that the official name for the back of her head was Bashley. Like people kept saying other Ashley, back Ashley, but yeah, it's Bashley, back Ashley, you know what I mean? But like, yeah. Now, the next point of discussion, Sister Sage. This one, okay, we have a lot to talk about. I'll try to keep it brief. Her plan was dumb. Her plan was extremely dumb because her entire plan, let's go back to her beginning, okay? She was recruited by Homelander. She had no choice, right? If she were to say no, he would have just killed her on the spot. So she had to do it. If her entire plan was that she wanted solitude, okay? Guess what? She had solitude all that time before. Homelander fired her. He got rid of her. He got exhausted of her. He didn't like working with her. He fired her. He wouldn't have come crawling back. His ego was way too big. He wouldn't have come crawling back. So he fired her. She got away during the previous season. She could have just went back home and that's the end of it. But no, she came back, built him up to being in charge of the president, okay? She built him up intentionally. So that's why everyone was invested. Okay, what's her big plan? Why would she willingly come back? Only to find out her brilliant plan was that she wanted to kill everyone. She wanted the humans to kill the soups, the virus to kill the soups to kill humans, and after all of that is said and done, she could go in her bunker and just be alone. She wanted solitude. But then she realizes she needs Homelander gone as well because he's a big man baby, you know? So if he survives through this entire apocalypse type thing, he would keep bothering her for help because he needs validation, he needs her intelligence, all that good stuff. So she needs him gone too. So she flips sides to the boys, which makes sense, but then messes it up by doing that god awful trope of ooh, smart character doesn't understand emotion. And it really doesn't work here because she talks about love, right? It's not romantic love. Well, it kind of is romantic love, right? Firstly, there is platonic love, right? Or familial love, I should say, because she loved her grandmother. And they harp on that so much. So she knows what love is. She shouldn't have to go through this character arc of, I don't know what love is. And then sulk and watch Love Island. It made no sense, right? And then she had romantic love. In Gen V, she had romantic love, right? And she saw firsthand how love makes people do weird shit, right? Uh, so why is she so shocked that, ooh, love is unpredictable? Ooh, they really fumbled the character because up until that point, she was very interesting. Up until that point where she called Soldier Boy when they were handling the V1 situation with Bombsight, right? Ooh, I'll talk about Bombsight as well, but yeah, just really fumble the character because it's interesting, right? Intelligent characters are interesting up until the finale when you need to wrap everything up and you need to prove that, okay, They had a fault somewhere. Somewhere in their grand master plan, there was a fault, right? So yeah, it was a bit upsetting to see that, and then her sulk for no reason, and then in the finale, kind of just not do much. Like she didn't have this big master plan. Now, additionally, the big plan boiling down to okay, we're gonna take Kimiko, walk right into the White House, and start fighting. That's the big plan. Like it boils down to that, right? That was a bit underwhelming. Now, I'll get into all that. Let's take it bit by bit, right? Just the fact of having Sage's master plan being that she wants everyone dead so that she could read in peace really wasn't that great. And then she was thwarted by love. And I'll get into Soldier Boy and Stormfront's love soon, right? But that was a bit underwhelming. Now, my next interesting point here, Gen V as a whole. I'll lump them all together, right? Spoilers for Gen V as well, duh, but I assume you would have watched it if you watched The Boys, right? They fumbled this as well because with the Gen V integration, they had two potential routes. Let's say route number one, or route number one, they could have not included them at all. They could have, at the end of Gen V, write some random stuff that, ooh, their goal now is to help usher people into Canada. We can't possibly help the main group of heroes because we are busy helping civilians. Okay, great. We don't need to write them into The Boys. We don't need to combine them. Route number two, you bring them in as part of the main cast, but as part of a supporting army or a supporting cast. Because let's be real, if you've watched the show, just Marie, Jordan, and Sam alone are stronger than Starlight, right? Potentially even stronger than Butcher, but like this is getting into semantics, but you get my point. They have some really powerhouse characters in this series and then don't really do anything with them, right? Especially considering, again, little recap, the whole reason as to why Homelander was powerful is the fact that he was the only baby to be birthed with V in his blood, like compound V in his blood. That's the entire point. Every other superhero was created afterwards. They were born, regular, and then injected. He got it while he was still in the womb, basically a fetus, right? And then you have Marie. Marie came from the exact same program as him. So she's supposed to be somewhat equivalent. And then you spend the entirety of season 2 for Gen V explaining that a lot of superheroes do the bare minimum. They don't put the effort in to unlock their next potential, to unlock the full range of their powers, right? And this ties back into, side tangent. If you're new to me, I go on side tangents, right? But Newman, Victoria Newman, I enjoyed that character a lot. When she was killed, I didn't like it. However, I told myself, hey, they're killing her off for a good reason. They most likely will bring Marie in since she has the same powers, but show that she is an upgraded version of Newman. Okay, she could do things that Newman couldn't do because guess what? She spent the entirety of season 2 for Gen V powering up. She spent that entire season getting better, right? So that's what I assumed would happen. Then they kind of just didn't use the character at all. So they got the downsides from route number 1 and the downsides from route number 2 because the characters are involved, but they don't really do anything. And then my issue here is that if you take some of the time, like literally just one episode, you could have integrated them. Like you don't need to spend that much time. Just give a 5-minute lore dump as to what these characters could do so people who never watched Gen V could understand what their powers are, and that's it. In fact, for the teenage for the teenage kicks episode, right? They should have done that, like integrated them such that the Gen V characters are the ones who go and do that side quest testing the virus against the teenage kicks like superheroes, right? That would have been great. It could have been like a Teen Titans type of parody where you got to know what these characters do, get to know a little bit of their dynamic, and show what they can do. Also, it would have built out the world more because this, in my opinion, this finale, not just the final episode, the entire season needed more superheroes because the antagonist side felt thin. It felt like there were not many antagonists. There should have been more underlings. You know what I mean? More henchmen, for lack of a better word. But yeah, this would have given them a bit more. In addition to this, if they wanted to show how they could tie in with each other, given the fact that we spent Gen V explaining the fact that superheroes could power up. Guess what? Let them train Ryan because up to this point, Ryan has not fought. Ryan hasn't had a fight really. He hasn't trained in any way, shape, or form. Let them work with him and train him. And guess what? Then in the final episode, it would have a bit more impact when he finally gets that big fight. You know what I mean? And there would be a good meshing of a few characters and bringing up his untapped potential. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate how they treated the characters because I I can't speak for everyone, but I believe most of us went through the same thing, right? When Gen V first came out, we were a bit reluctant. We didn't really want to watch it. It might tarnish the good name of the boys universe, but then you watched it and actually enjoyed it and was like, ooh, this is good, right? And then they kind of just didn't do much with it. So that's a bit unfortunate because they could have really done well. It could have expanded and pushed the universe out a bit more, given a little bit more breathing room by having more characters. But I'm getting redundant now. Let's move on to the deep. Amazing. Peak character. Like this guy, this is how you do a nonsensical character because he doesn't necessarily add to the plot much, but he's just so enjoyable. So, like, he has to stay. You know how sometimes when people are explaining how there are plot holes or stuff in series or books or movies that, ooh, this entire character could be written out of the story so easily, so they shouldn't have existed. I feel as though if you really think about it, that could happen here with the Deep, but you don't want him to ever be written off because he's just that enjoyable. The only downside, I don't like how they had him kill off Black Noir, well, Black Noir too, because really, like I said, the antagonist in this series, we needed more, right? We needed more people beneath Homelander so that, okay, there is a bit of a build up as they try taking off or taking out some of his underlings and building up, trying to get to Homelander a bit, you know? But like, yeah, besides that, I really enjoyed I enjoyed his ending. The fact that he screamed no when he was told by Starlight to take some responsibility, just peak character. And I love the callback to when he was in the ocean. Ooh, tangent again. I didn't like how him and Starlight getting into a big fight, Starlight flies him to the beach of all places. You mean the one place where he could potentially access the water? Like, one of the worst places to take him, right? But yeah, let's say they land there by accident. He lands in the water. She has no clue that the fish no longer fucks with him. She has no clue they don't vibe with him. But luckily they don't and they kill him. I liked the callback to Ambrosia. I really like that. And the fish saying, say her name, that was great. That was really good. Now, talking about Huey, I don't have much to say about Huey. Huey is from the very beginning of the series, he was the stand-in character, right? He is supposed to be the viewer's point of view. He's supposed to be the geeky, nerdy guy who gets whisked away into the world of superheroes in traditional media, right? But just in a twisted version that we call The Boys. And it was great. He served his purpose. I really, really enjoyed how when he's in the Oval Office, or the White House, I should say, and he needs to distract Oh Father, the fact that he names the fire extinguisher thing that he shoots really good because it calls back to the fact that, hey, his strength, what he adds to the team is his intelligence, right? His knowledge of tech and tech related stuff. That's what he adds. So that was good. Plus his his impression or impersonation of Butcher, really good as well. I I liked the idea of how they killed O Father, but the execution just felt a bit like abrupt. But that's just a little nitpicky. I overall liked it because we have serious deaths like Homeland and whatnot, and you have the ones that are a bit funny because this one, O Father, was very reminiscent of I believe his name is Black Bolt from Marvel, right? So yeah. Ooh, pivoting now to the big a big point of discussion. Homelander in general. Okay, the reason for this season, right? Now, we spent this entire show building up to how will we defeat him, right? Our first plan was Ryan, all the way back when he was a child. Then we had Soldier Boy. Then we had the virus. Then potentially Marie helping out. But yeah, firstly, I'll say the show in general needed to talk about consequences a bit more because we had this build up of the footage of him leaving the passengers on the plane to die. That was a big point of contention for multiple seasons. We start this season off with a bang. That footage gets released and it gets swept under the rug so quickly. Like it's pinned as AI, which yeah makes sense, but it has no consequences. And then when he finally amasses power, he doesn't really do anything, right? I really wished they had at least part of an episode to show us what it looks like from the point of view of the everyday citizen, from the average civilian to know, okay, what does it look like living in Homelander's America? How is it different, right? Because we really don't see him massacring the masses, right? Like yes, in the opening of the series, he has his moment in the internment camp, right? In the prison. But that's the prison. Like I want to see him in the general public. What he would do if he's angry or whatnot. His full rage. At least one scene like that would have been nice. But no, we don't really have any of those consequences. And then we have this build up, the virus, the soup killing virus, and then we really quickly find a counter to it. Didn't really like that as well. And I talked about this earlier. He should have had an army. Now, not an expansive army, because I know the marketing for the series made it really seem as though it's going to be a showdown, a big brawl. We don't need that, but at the same time, we don't need just Homelander and like two other people being the total sum of the antagonists. It felt too sparse, too little, too thinned out. He needed a few underlings, and with that being said, then the Gen V characters would have had counterparts to play off of, if you get what I mean. Because what do you mean during the big confrontation while he's giving his big speech in the Oval Office, he didn't hire or well didn't enforce any security to stop Butcher? Because yes, we understand that Homelander is fully delusional, right? He fully believes he is God, he could stop anything, but he probably doesn't want to stop them while he's giving his big speech. So why not put more in place? All he has, his big plan here, is to lock them there, or maybe it's O Father's plan, but the big plan in general is to lock them in the tunnels and shoot them with guns. Like, they have access or are in charge of so many superheroes that we don't even meet. You couldn't write a few into the story so that their job would be, okay, you need to get past these superheroes before you make it to Homelander. Like, you need to do this. And during that confrontation, some characters, some of the background characters, like the Gen V characters, or even people like MM, they get left behind. Now, not killed, right? I wouldn't have wanted that, but they get left behind, and then you have Butcher and the key main players advance to the Oval Office to confront Homelander. That is what I would have preferred. But unfortunately, the universe just felt diminutive, right? Because, firstly, his powers felt inconsistent. Because what do you mean? They explicitly show us that this guy could fly almost as fast as A-Train could run. This guy, he flew the Elon Musk parody to space and left him there in like 5 seconds. And when he's trying to escape from Butcher and Kimiko, he can't fly away. The same thing I said about Black Noir too when he was fighting, well, fighting, when he was being a victim to the Deep. He could fly. Why didn't he fly? Similarly here, Homelander, the guy could fly really quick, but he didn't fly at all. It felt weird. It just felt a bit weird. His powers felt inconsistent. Also, his laser vision, we've seen him literally cut Kimiko in half, but this time it doesn't. Now, you could chalk that up to the radiation. Okay, cool, she's radiated and powerful, but at the same time, he has V1. He should be more powerful, so that's a bit inconsistent. And then, to top it off, everything just felt diminutive. I think I said that because what do you mean the fight takes place within the White House? That's it. The big brawl. Now I get they did that because they wanted the broadcast to be shown around America, you know? They wanted to show the public who he really is, which makes sense. They needed that camera. But at the same time, I'm sure you could have come up with another way to tell that, right? By having them at least spill out onto the lawn or something. Because this entire fight taking place within this one room just felt so contained. And the fact that this is the big send-off to the main antagonist, it should have felt a bit more grand, a bit bigger. It felt really small in this one room. But all of those negatives out of the way, his ending was great, right? Having him go out as a whimpering, begging, like pathetic man-child because he no longer has his powers. That was good. That was great. I believe everyone enjoyed seeing him depowered and not being able to do anything. So that was really good. Also, just Anthony Starr in general. I'll talk about that a bit later. Him in general, he's just great at what he does. Now, Butcher, I don't have much to say about Butcher. No complaints because his story arc made a lot of sense. I really enjoyed how he was a parallel to Homelander. You have Ryan saying no when Homelander offered and was like, hey, come live with me. Ryan said no. When Butcher said, hey, come live with me, Ryan also said no. Because even though Homelander is the bad guy, that doesn't make Butcher a good guy, right? Now, Butcher isn't a villain, but he isn't exactly the good guy, so he's kind of in this weird spot. But he's a parallel to Homelander, and Ryan chooses neither. So I really like that. Also, the ending, him having to be stopped by Huey, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's just thematically the only way it could have gone because he didn't really have anything else to live for. And him trying to exterminate all the soups, it just makes sense. Now, I put this photo here. Now, not everyone is pictured, but just a shout out to all the actors, even the crew members, because the acting was great, the music was great, the cinematography was great, the costumes was great, the script was great, the narrative, everything. Everyone who worked on this series in general deserves applause because it was really well done. I have a few things to say that are negative about the finale itself, but the build-up of this show overall was really good. And that's why I mentioned Anthony Starr particularly. Firstly, for the memes. But secondly, his emotions were really, really good. His range and the fact that you could spend literally 5 seasons of this guy having intense stare-offs. Every time he's alone with a human or any character, you get this dread of, is he going to kill them? Is he not going to kill them? Is he going to kill them? Is he not going to kill them? And to do that for 5 seasons and not get repetitive, that was really impressive. So him as Homelander, really good. Everyone else was great as well, but just he was such a standout. And finally, this one, Soldier Boy. Now, I have to preface this. I enjoyed Jensen Ackles so much. I loved it. I loved it. I enjoyed the character too. I loved all his his crass jokes. Now, mind you, tangent. I did not really like how every character towards the end basically became a bit more crass. Okay? Like, yes, some characters make sense. Butcher being crass, Soldier Boy, MM at times, Frenchie makes sense. But then having Starlight turn crass, okay, makes sense. She's disillusioned. But then Huey having moments being crass, Kimiko's entire gimmick of learning English through TikTok and being crass. Okay, that was a bit much. Huey and Kimiko, in my opinion, shouldn't have become crass. But yeah, back to Soldier Boy. Too much time in this season was spent building up Vought Rising. I think everyone could agree on that because it should have had one episode as a kind of backdoor pilot, and that's it. Because this is what Clara would have wanted, all that felt so annoying. If it was a one-off line, okay, good, but it came back a few times. And the issue with Clara is that, okay, Stormfront worked as a character because she was a raging Nazi bitch. There's no other way to put it. She is a horrible person, right? So the audience could hate her with zero inhibitions. You could just outright hate her as the villain. That's what makes her enjoyable. But this pseudo love story that they want to spin with Soldier Boy and Clara makes it a bit weird because the writers kind of dance around the fact that, okay, Stormfront, sorry, no, Soldier Boy supports Stormfront. Stormfront supports white supremacy. Therefore, does Soldier Boy support white supremacy? Question mark? Because they don't outright say it, because they don't want their potential future money cow, which is Vought Rising, and maybe even bring him back from Mexico. The boys Mexico, sorry, because not a single mention was made of him throughout this entire finale. No one mentioned where is he. We don't know where he is. He just got put on ice and no one knows anything. So they might even be saving him for the boys in Mexico, or maybe even a future unannounced project, you know? So they don't want their potential maybe new main character to be tarnished and sullied by the fact that, Stormfront was a raging Nazi. You know what I mean? But giving this love plot line that for sure we will see in Vought Rising kind of sours it a bit because we enjoyed hating Stormfront. That's what was enjoyable about her, right? But now you kind of want to have sympathy towards her because she's a love interest to Soldier Boy, and Soldier Boy is a very enjoyable character. So it felt weird. It felt like they were stepping outside of the boundaries of what he should have been. He should have been relegated to season 3, I think, is when he came in. I could be mistaken. And then, okay, brought back into season 5, but at the very end of it, killed off in some way, shape, or form, right? But they may be saving him for future endeavors. That being said, the overall season, it started off good towards the middle when they started talking about Vought Rising a bit too much. Didn't really enjoy that. But by the end of it, I will give the finale specifically a good 6 or 7 out of 10, right? Maybe 6.5 because it's not bad. It's not great, but it's good, right? It's just overshadowed by the fact that so much of the previous seasons were great. It was stellar. This show had a lot of good build up, and they had those meta jokes at the beginning of the season talking about how difficult it is to stick the landing when it comes to writing a finale. They made fun of the finale for Lost, I believe. They made fun of other shows, I think, that it's difficult to write a finale, and it's true. But they did good overall. It's not horrible, it's not bad. It could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed this series. I've been a fan since it came out, and it's great to see how it ended. Now, that was a very long rant.